Hey guys, what's going on? What everybody doing out there? What's happening? I'm in Liverpool. Once again, I'm in Liverpool. Weather's a little different than the last time I was here. It's always cold whenever I'm here, but not this time. It's not exactly warm though either. It's like been like 60 and then like 50s at night. But it's nice out today. So I'm gonna hang with you guys for a little bit and then we'll go out for a little while, find some dinner, etc. So I came here last it hasn't been a week. It's been about 5 days or something like that since I've been here. And I basically flew to London, then I flew to the Isle of Man, which I'd never been to, for the big motorcycle race, the TT. When I played a gig there with Classic Rock Show, and now I'm just kind of chilling in England for a week before getting the Such 5 band tour started, and doing a little bit of rehearsing and stuff and going out and starting some gigs. So that's it, man. That's what's going on. Who we got here? Let's see. We got Lauren in the house. We got Trolls. We got Music Live with Arthur. Yeah, that island was crazy. Arthur says Music Life. I mean, Arthur says the motorcycle race. Yeah, TT motorcycle race, but famous race. Been going for 100 years or something or more. I don't know. Wow, I've never seen an island with so many, like it's centered around that race, and it seems, and also just motors and speed. There's a lot of a lot of cars, a lot of like usually on islands, there's like not so much when it comes to that. It's like less cars, people driving around in golf carts sometimes and stuff or whatever, or just small cars. This is all about fast bikes and like crazy, people zooming around. They go like 170 miles an hour. It's crazy, man. Crazy. How many days of practice? That's a good question. I mean, we already did some, and then this will be like 4 or 5 leading up to first shows. So we'll see exactly how that transpires. But yeah, Isle of Man TT is epic. Yeah, it's crazy, man. The speed is crazy. Like that those bikes go. It's bonkers. And there's just tons of folks there too. It was like we played there basically during the qualifying week. So it was like not the full-on race going on yet, so more and more people were showing up as we were leaving. Yeah, pretty crazy. JB Blues says looking forward to London. We'll see you there, man. I'm a little like I haven't really been turning around on the jet lag. Yeah, I'm a little I probably seem a little out of it. Like I'm sleeping last night. I slept like 6, not bad. But I took a nap right now for probably too long. It was like, you do that thing where you go out for longer than 20 minutes and you just want to stay asleep. It's very dangerous, but I haven't been worried about it that much because I don't have that much to do right now. So I just going over songs and stuff in this, sitting right here in the hotel room, and got my quad cortex here. And James Cole, actually, because my gear's still in lockup and stuff, so he lent me his PT. He's got one now, a PT traditional, which is very nice. This one's really resonant. It looks backwards because I didn't reverse the camera like I should have in StreamYard, but it's not a lefty. I guess I can go in and do that. Should I? Might as well. So it's not confusing. So as not to be confusing. I don't know why they even give that feature, the mirror my camera feature. Why do they do that? Because it's like, it's backwards, but I guess some cameras do it automatically, and then it would be correct. I don't know. I guess that's why they do it. Yeah. That acoustic part in Flying in a Blue Dream. Yeah, that's a really interesting. It's an open tuning and very dropped. That particular song, So it's down to C, is it? Can't remember actually right now, but it's anyway. I know how to play it, but I think it's C. And very cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful part, really. Yeah. Joe got a new bass. Music Man Stingray. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. We were talking about the either that or GNL, right? I remember. That's cool, man. Congrats. Congrats on your new bass. Yeah. All right. And then how Satch starts the solo. Yeah, I always love the solo in that song. I think you're starting talking about the same song, right? About Flying a Blue Dream. That whole thing that he does at the beginning. Really interesting phrasing. Um, and I remember when that album came out. I mean, it was 90, I think, when that album came out, and it was kind of I'd had Not of This Earth, but then Surfing really blew the doors wide open for Joe, and then Flying in the Blue Dream was, I mean, it's probably the first song I heard right off of that new record. I was like, "Oh wow, that's beautiful." So that Lydian, cool melody, really great. Yeah. How's the beer here? Oh, good. It's England. Beers, ciders, all that business. Will you be heading up Newcastle way? Not really. No, I'm not on this particular trip. We're doing about 4 or 5 gigs in the UK. So we've got a Glasgow and then Wolverhampton, Manchester, London, and York. Yeah, on this particular tour. Do you break in speakers in any particular way? Not really. I just play the cabs, man. Some people say you should, do certain things or play music through them, or but I'll just play them, just to start using them, and they're going to change over time. The 2 cabs that I have here, that kind of live over here, they, have seen multiple tours now, and so they just, I assume they're pretty well broken in after, you do about 30 shows on them, and then they're pretty good. So I don't worry about it that much. Yeah. Just because of my sort of just logistics. The other day, I actually used Quad Cortex, but through a cab. So I had a cab, one of mine, and used a Matrix power amp to kind of get a little bit of onstage volume. But basically, the main tone was really coming through the output of the Quad Cortex going to the PA, and it sounded good in my in-ears. Actually, I just used a very basic sound. We did a gig here where I didn't really need a lot of sounds, so I used like 4 different tones. That's it, all within one scene on the Quad Cortex, which worked out really good. Yeah. Earl says, I heard Andy Wood is sitting with CRS while you're on tour. He is a great player. Yeah, I thought he'd be the right guy, so I had him sub for me for a one show. It's a private thing that they're going to do and stuff, and so it'll be great. If you haven't seen it, watch Pete in the new Satch by band video. Satch by band is what I said. Satch by band video. Just amazing. Thanks, man. Yeah, it was super fun to do, man, with Glenn Hughes and all the guys. It was so cool. Really fun to be in the room. It was a good, easiest, most fun video I've ever made. So I've been in a few, and that was the most fun for sure. Hitting any guitar shops while you're out here? Well, I haven't been by any yet, but I probably will. If and when the opportunity arises, I always like to do that a little bit. With all the talk on Jim's captures on Tone X, just wanted to get your thoughts on your favorite gear setup for Van Halen 2-tone. Well, Van Halen 2 to me is really a great sound, but it's really pretty basic. It's all just about the Marshall, kind of like good and loud. And sometimes maybe not even, it sounds like to me on that record, not even on 10, maybe it's on 8 or 9, and then, or maybe sometimes just rolling the guitar down more or less. But it just sounds like great greenback Marshall tone. I love the raw sound. I know Dave Friedman agrees with this, but he really likes that raw, warmer, Marshall-y Van Halen tone that you hear on too. It just sounds like a good Marshall and just somebody playing the crap out of it. So yeah, something like an SL68 and a good greenback cabinet will get you there, for sure. Yep. And the Tonex package is just terrific for doing it on the cheap and at low volume. And you know, how much closer do you need to get than that, right? It's pretty great. So yeah. Mike says, do you worry about war spreading out there? That's a deep question for my show. Hey man, if that happened, it'd be like, what could any of us do about it? You know, at this point, it's like, what can you do? Crazy world we live in, isn't it? Let's hope not, though. What's your gear setup? It's gonna be my same stuff that I use with classic rock, which is so to say, I've actually got 2 pedal boards because I needed some extra stuff for acoustic sounds and also some synthy kind of sounds and stuff. So I've got a quad cortex on a board for that on this tour, and a couple other pedals that I needed to add for things. So I just put it all on my second board, and then I've got them linked up. So 2 pedal boards, my main board as well, with no new additions really on the main board. That's not true. I put a Strymon Cloudburst on instead of an Echoplex. I wasn't using the Echoplex for anything, and I had that extra slot, and I thought this could be good for a couple things. So I added a Cloudburst. What else? I've got a Roland MO2, a Boss MO2 on the board, which is a multi-overtone pedal. It's kind of like their version of a Pog. So I have that for a couple things. That's on there too. That was a new addition. Other than that, 2 PT100s in stereo, 2 412s, and a bunch of cool guitars. Just the 3 PT guitars, the traditional, the PT standard HSS, and the PT custom HSS, and then a couple of acoustics for different things. Yeah. So we're actually kind of keeping it lighter on guitars than I do even with CRS. Just don't need that many. So, yeah. What do you think of the new Kiesel guitar, the Kyber? I haven't seen it, actually, to be honest. I'll take a look. There's a super chat there. I'll get that in a second. A friend gave me a Rev Tilt Overdrive on Infinite Loan. I did a video on it. You can watch my video if you want, Lauren. It's pretty good. I think it's a nice pedal that was kind of in conjunction with help me. Why am I spacing on? I'm just jet lagged is all it is. But Sean Tubbs, sorry, they did it with Sean Tubbs. I hate it when I do that. Do you ever have that happen where you're like, you know? Actually, I had it happen on tour where I need to talk during a show and I forgot what I was like supposed to be talking about. And that's a terrifying thing, like standing up there and you're supposed to be, and then it went boom and it just clicked in. I was like, thought about it later and I was like, that was terrifying. Just have a total blank mind all of a sudden. I am tired. I'm like, I probably look tired. Just, you know, that's just coming over here and doing this and travel and all that stuff. But I probably could have worked a little harder on getting over the jet. Like, it was just hard because when I flew over here, getting to Isle of Man was a royal pain in the ass. Like, because our plane had a mechanical issue and we were delayed on the tarmac for 8 hours and stuff. That made for a 24-hour travel day. So, and then I went right into a gig day the next day. And then had to leave and come over here, travel, and that was sort of a island nightmare airport experience, like getting through that. And so by the time I got here, I was just like really wiped. Not just like going to London wiped. I can deal with that, but like going to the Isle of Man from London, getting there and everything, and then playing a show and then getting back here was what did it over a 3-day period. And so now I've just been like a little delirious and trying to get over the jet lag, but just napping when I need to, which isn't the best thing to do. The trick is to not do that. It's to, you know, just like really go in deep on the first couple days of trying to stay up, go out, walk around, don't go to sleep until like 10. My trick for those that want to know my jet lag trick is like stay up, eat at normal times, and then try and stay up. Don't go past it though. Like if you're going to Europe, stay up till 10:30 or 11 p.m., then get in bed. It's a great time to go to bed. If you go to 12:30, 1 a.m., you might have gone past it because now, yeah, it's just like not. By going past it, I mean you're doing yourself like the disservice of like not going to bed early enough when, like, because my thinking is that it's so late in the day then in the US that you're now up, because it's like, what time would it be? 8 to 9, 9 to 10. So the time I'm recommending to go to bed is about 1:32 in the afternoon. And you've sort of stayed up all night US time then. And if you can go to bed at like so around 11 p.m., it's now like 2 in the afternoon. You've stayed up all night. You're just like knackered, 2 in the afternoon in LA time or whatever, right? Get some sleep then, and you might make it to 4 or 5 in the morning if you're lucky, and if you do that, like 5 hours the first night is just genius. If you get that's pretty good. But anyway, that's how I generally do it. But yeah, don't stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning and then expect to sleep. You'll go to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning and you'll wake up at like 4:30. It's just a nightmare. That's at least just the way it goes for me. I didn't bring any melatonin this time either, and I think that kind of helps too for me, a little melatonin. Long-time viewer, always super glad you come over to rehearse in my city. Keep on trucking. What's up, man? So you're a Liverpool person? What's happening? Are you familiar with the Laney VH100R? No, I'm not. Just because you're in Chile, we don't have great Laney distribution in the US. You don't see them like anywhere in LA or anything like that. So I don't know why that is. We had them in Canada growing up. Pretty good Laney distribution. And so you would see folks using them, the old AOR heads from the 80s. I remember those real well. Yeah, we just don't see the new modern Laney stuff that much. So, yep. Of course, the Oilers won the hockey this week. How about that? Come on, give me a break. Fantastic. Gonna be watching that coming up anytime I can. Are you going to do a solo yourself, like in the show? I get a little bit of stuff here and there. I have a lot of fun parts to play, though. It's really, really a blast. So, yeah. Yep. How would you go about miking a 412 with 257s? One in regular position, the one farther out to the edge, then blend? Yeah, generally. I mean, not too close to them. The Van Halen thing was always one dead center and then one out further and angled, for the darker tone. I probably wouldn't go dead center ever. I mean, it's a sound, but it's really, if you're blending it with another one, then it's kind of cool. I guess you could give that a try. But I would probably do it a little further out, like maybe where the cap meets the cone, right where the ridges or whatever you want to call it, right? Just out a little further. And then the other one probably out a little further than that, like you're saying. You can experiment with angle on the other one too. See if have you ever seen that Fredman mic position? That's kind of cool. Look that up. It's not Friedman, but Fredman, I believe. Fredman. They actually make a clip you can buy that puts the 257s in a position where one's pointed straight and then the other one's kind of angled, and it's pretty cool. I think makes for kind of a neat tone. So look that up. You might want to get one of those. Arthur with some coffee funds there. Thanks, my friend. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'll be buying coffee every day, so I'll think about you. Appreciate you. What else we got here? Let's see. How am I enjoying Liverpool? I always enjoy Liverpool. It's a great town, man. There's lots of good food here. It's not so big, it's like a nice sized city that you can walk around. There's everything here that you need. It's a really nice place. It's beautiful outside right now. I should show you guys, actually. Just have you can kind of see if I do this, I guess, but it's a nice day out there and just kind of the bay. Really pretty out. I'll go out there after and go walking around. Get some dinner and stuff in a little bit here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, moving down. Thanks again to Arthur for that super chat. And there's another one from Basil. How many pedals would you say? I guess a lot. I have a lot of pedals. I have hundreds of pedals, but I don't know. I'd have to count. So it's a lot of pedals. Yeah, it's a lot. Too many. You should have ate lunch or dinner. Well, I did. Went for Sunday roast. It's Sunday and I'm in England. I'm not new. But I had lunch around 2 p.m. and then had some ice cream after. So, that ties me over till now. I think I'm going to go get a pizza after, actually. Or maybe something a little healthier than that. But there's a good pizza place I know of that I might go get a little pizza at. Just go have a nice night and walk around a little bit. What are your favorite speakers from Marshall 412 cabs? Well, it's basically, old greenbacks, blackbacks. Hard to go wrong with those. I love old blackbacks, or kind of my thing. But I like old greenbacks too. One of the best cabs I ever heard was an old 412, like really old, like 1966 or something, Marshall, that they have at line 6 because they own a lot of vintage gear, and it had the 20-watt really early greenbacks in it that were rated for 20 watts. That cabinet sounds so sweet. It's really nice. That kind of haunts me, that one. A good G12H30 is nice too for a little tougher kind of tone. I was watching this bird out here that's just like coasting. When they do that, when they just hang in the wind and kind of float. Anyways, but good V30 is always a great thing too. I just like those speakers, man. Like basically good old Celestians. It's like Friedman pointed out to me once that almost everything you hear from the last, like rock tones 412 stuff, is a V30 or a greenback from the last however many years, and G12H30. A little bit of 75s or 65s thrown in for good measure here. But yeah. And if it could only have one, it'd be the greenback. I love those. Consider buying your signature pickups. Any comments or suggestions on them? How do they compare with Tone Zone? Well, a Tone Zone, it's supposed to be kind of the closest thing, as I understand it, to the pickups in the Van Halen guitar. So it's a very different pickup than mine, I would say. But I mean, mine are just a little bit more traditional, wind PAFE, probably closer to Duncan's, if anything. But I've got basically the Thornbucker, which is 8.4K. The Thornbucker Plus around 8.7. The neck pickup is a high 7s, almost more like a T-top. If you wanted a good T-top sound, you could just get 2 of the neck models, and you'd have kind of like a mid-60s SG kind of sound. I love those low wind 7 something for the neck pickup. They just, it's like a big single coil almost. And then then the Thornbucker 2 is a Alnico 2 magnet 9K, a little bit more of that Van Halen thing. And yeah, that's my pickups. So very PAF-y, and then kind of a hot A2 PAF, I guess. Hotter, but not hot, let's see here. What else are we talking about? Are you a fan of Dan Huff's playing? Just released his first instrumental album. Oh, really? Oh, how interesting. I should listen to that. I'm going to give that a listen. I had no idea he did that. What a cool thing that he did an instrumental album. I'm going to give it a listen. I've heard his playing. I remember him from Giant, but I didn't really follow him that much once he went to Nashville and kind of started doing that thing more. I know Andy Wood's kind of a fan. He probably knows his material more than I do. But well-regarded guy. And I remember Giant really well from the late 80s. Yeah, saw you at the Liverpool Phil. Nice venue, always. Knackered is such a British slang word. Oh yeah, I spent so much time over here now. I've picked up most of it. Shattered, knackered. Yeah, it's total British slang. For sure, for sure. Word up from Minnesota. There, it's Dan in Minnesota. What's happening, man? There's another super chat there. I gotta grab that in a sec. Yep. Headstock in the UK used to distribute Laney and Ibanez from 97s. Is that a music store or just a distributor? And you're in Norwich. I love Norwich. It's a nice town. We used to play there more, and then something happened to our gig there. I don't know what, where it's just like I think the theater likes having different, like, I don't know if we're right for them or something. They think, I always thought the gig was great there. Always sold well, but they're having like less bands or something. I don't know. So I don't think we were there last year. This past January, February. I've spent so much time over here this year. I will be in Europe basically 6 months of this year by the time I'm finished this tour, I think. So almost 6 months. Hope you're having a killer Sunday, says Impega 5150. Can't wait to see you and Steve and Joe in a few weeks. I'm totally looking forward to it as well. We're going to do it. Does anyone use different string gauges on different guitars? I think that's a thing that sure, different guitars could, especially if you do different tunings and things, but it's kind of a no-brainer then if you've got something tuned down real low. Because you saw these, like Ariel Posen has a signature string set that's I think it starts with a 14. It's maybe like 14 to 60, but he tunes like, C or B really, really low. So it makes sense on guitars like that. Sometimes people like, if you've got to get a Les Paul in E flat, then maybe they'll put 10s on that, but then like a Strat in E, you'd put 9s, to kind of even out the tension. That's a thing. Cool pick on the thumbnail. Yeah, John Lennon over by the Matthew Street and the Cavern and all that. I was over there the other day. I guess that was yesterday morning. Yeah. What else we got here? Looking at purchasing my first tube amp. Are 1 and 5 tube amp worth it, or should I go for bigger? You mean like 1 watt, or just use for practicing at home? So I can't really use a super loud amp. You just want to get something that's got a good master volume on it, because even a 1 watt, like I have one of those Marshall 1 watts. That's like from 10 years ago or whatever. It's a little baby JTM. It's called the JTM 1. Volume and tone knob. It's got a built-in attenuator in it, like probably just a load resistor or whatever, to take it from 1 watt to 0.1 of a watt, they say. But like the 1 watt setting would be too loud for my apartment or whatever that I had at the time when I got it. I would just put the switch in, and then it was like a perfect sort of TV volume, so even 1 watt can be loud. So long story short, you just want to have an amp, even if it's 20 watts, something that's got a good master on it, so that you can reduce that volume and not get evicted. Water today. Sorry. I had a cup of tea after I woke up from this nap. And that's enough caffeine before, because it's already 8 o'clock. So I'm going to need to go to bed at some point. I just got a text from a pal. Good. It's a technical question. I'm just going to tell him I can hit him back. Yeah. So just doing a live stream. My buddy Billy Howardell from Perfect Circle. Give him a call back in a bit. Is the tour coming to Canada? Well, I think that they would like to do more. I don't think there's a solid plan yet, maybe with anything that at least that I've been notified of. But they would like to do more. That's all I can say. So we'll see. I think the desire is there. Looking to order a custom SIR and wanted to go with a chambered body like your HH signature, big tonal differences. I'll tell you something about that. It's kind of funny that my original signature guitar, the 2 humbucker version, is chambered. It uses mahogany body, mahogany neck. I didn't know it was chambered because the deal is that the guitar was built off of another guitar called the Mahogany Deluxe. They did a custom run of these guitars called Mahogany Deluxes. I played one out there and I was like, this is friggin' lovely. It's mahogany, like mahogany with a maple top and mahogany neck. I never would have thought that in a guitar like this that I would like it. You know, Strat shaped guitar or whatever. But lo and behold, I really liked it. And so I said, can you make me one of these and do a black top and a red back and red neck? And so I spec'd it all out and they made me one. And that became my first, you know, a couple of years after that, that became the spec for my signature model. And I said, great, you know, let's just make it as is. I love the guitar. I love how it turned out. I didn't know, but I mean, they were chambering the bodies, and that had been since day one because that's the way those original Mahogany Deluxes were. I just said, just make it like, I love this guitar. Like, this is the body, this is the spec I want. And then I was like, should I be worried about that? And then I was like, no, I shouldn't be worried about it. I like the way it sounds. It came out great. I was surprised about the Mahogany Deluxe guitar and how much I liked it. And so, you know, it's like, you know, reality versus preconceived notions of what you might think. I would have said, don't chamber it. You know, but then I realized I like the sound, you know, of it. So that's how it happened. And of course it serves to keep them quite light, you know, within the mid 8s or something, you know, for weight, because mahogany can just be all wood actually, but you know, mahogany can be heavy these days. It's harder and harder to find real light, you know, mahogany, I think, true mahogany. So that's how that worked out. Was just a kind of a happy accident, and I discovered that I liked it. Yeah. Thoughts on the recent drummer firings, Josh and Zach and stuff. Well, I felt badly for all of them actually, you know, but it does, and I actually told Josh this, like afterwards. I sent him a text and said, you know, I think you did a great service by sending out that post and just kind of letting people know what happened, and just kind of very honest about it, about his feelings and about how he was a little taken aback or a little bummed about it, and he'll be okay, but he, you know, doesn't mean he's not disappointed. And I thought he was very, almost like, he was just so honest about it. And I think it's good for people to see, you know, like even at the top where you're considered one of the greatest drummers in the world, we all face these things when we work for other people, and it's just kind of the reality of gigs, and it's a job like, you know, where there's generally somebody that has the ability to let you go, you know, if they see fit. And so, and, you know, and also just to know that he's Josh Freese. He's not any one band. He's been in a million bands, you know, and he's such a capable, amazing musician, amazing drummer, that he'll land on his feet, be just fine wherever he goes, you know. Who's got a roster like him? Sting and the Offspring, and Nine Inch Nails, and the Vandals, and Devo, and like all the bands that he's played with. It's amazing his you know, just incredible career that he's had. So he'll be just fine. But yeah, the Zach thing too. I watched the Zach thing go down, man, because I had my phone out that night, and he was live streaming actually from Royal Albert Hall. And, you know, he had the phone behind his drums. And I thought, oh, cool. I clicked on it, said Zach Starkey's live stream, you know, he's gone live on Instagram. I clicked that. I was like, oh, cool. They're at Royal Albert Hall. I recognized it. And I just left it on while I was doing some video editing. And I watched it was like the last 30 minutes of the show or so. So they play some songs, and Roger at some point comes up to him and he goes like, you can see him going like this and pointing at his ears and frustrated and looking at Zach. And I thought, oh, he must be having a mix issue. And then they go into the last song, which was, what is it? Dream is Over or whatever. And I'm sitting there editing. I'm just kind of looking over at the screen occasionally. Right. And there's sitting there editing. And at some point I'm like, did they start again? Like that tune, the last tune of the set. I was like, I think they stopped and started again. So, you know, evidently Roger got lost or couldn't hear right or whatever. And he was probably just so in his own head and angry or something about a mix issue or whatever. Because Zach's playing, here's the other thing. Of course, he's playing rolling drums, you know, so the V drums. So I think I talked quite a bit about this on another show already. I might have told this whole story. So sorry if I did. But now that I think about it, back when it happened. But anyway, then next thing you hear, he's got let go, and it's just like, what the hell? And then he's back in, and then he's let go again. So what can you do? I don't know. I mean, I feel really bad for him, but he's also a brilliant drummer, and he'll land on his feet. And this is supposed to be the Who's last tour anyway, so whatever, and he'll be like, he'll carry on and do something else really cool. So, yeah, I think it just goes to show and goes to highlight that as sidemen we're all vulnerable. Yeah. Braxall says, I got black backs in my old Marshall cabs. I'm glad I never sold them. Obtained them in the mid-'80s. Good speakers. They're my faves. Played a lot of great cabs at the Scumbag Lair. Vintage Celeste and Jim speakers, all awesome. Scumbags are great, man. I mean, a lot of the ones that I used to use them. I've still got them in a couple different cabinets. Got them in a 112, and I have a 412 Port City cab that's really nice. That's loaded with them. Good speakers. Really looking forward to Setchify in London. Thanks. Hey, Simon, what's up, man? Thank you for the super chat, dude. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. So a little over a week from now, something like that. We'll be there. Something like that. I think should be really fun. Talk about your 7-string. Oh, it's a lovely guitar. Sir guitar. Basswood body with a maple top, I believe, because I just left it up to them to do. I said, you guys I don't know anything about these types of guitars, really. I mean, I do, but I just said to them, make it a high gain shredder guitar that's, great for that and just versatile and stuff. So I believe it's basswood body maple top, which was kind of John's choice for gain. Eddie Van Halen's too, right? Maple neck. It's kind of got a light roast on the neck. Rosewood fingerboard. Stays in tune amazing. Plays beautifully all over the neck. Really consistent neck. I don't even know what pickups are in it. I think they're, equivalent of like a HSS Plus or HSS or whatever, but in a 7-string pickup in the bridge, and then in the neck probably the SSV style because they're the 7-string pickups. So, but really a great guitar. They're a bear to tune because it's got a floating Floyd on it. So part of me thinks I should just block the bridge and stuff, because when you tune up with that extra string, you know how you tune a Floyd, and it, if you're a little out of tune, it can take a while because the strings all have to balance out and the bridge is moving around and stuff. As you're bringing up the pitch of one, it's pulling all the others down a little bit and all that. So that whole thing is just kind of exponentially more with a 7th string, that big fat string. So if you're a little flat or something, it's like, oh man, it takes you a while to get the guitar tuned up, substantially longer than a 6-string. So, but once that guitar is in tune, it's in tune all over the neck and just sounds killer. So really, really great instrument. Yeah. Yep. What else? Dan Huff is a legend. Been in the business for a long time. Yeah, I think Uncle Larry talked about Dan doing a record. That's cool. I saw a video of Uncle Larry playing with Vince Gill the other day. Why am I back in Liverpool? You pointed your camera towards my house. I'm in Liverpool because this is where CRS is based, and I thought would be a good place to camp for a minute. It turns out those guys have got to go because it's a bit of time before we start our dates with Satch which is I got to be down in London. But I thought, well, Isle of Man, we do a show there. These guys, a bunch of them are flying back to Liverpool after. I'll just come to Liverpool and hang for a few days because I know it well and it's comfortable. It's not as expensive as London, and my gear is here. I have gear here I need to pick up. So that'll allow me to do all that, get the logistics of getting the gear down to London and everything I had to figure out. But turns out that CRS guys have got to go to the States for a minute. So they're all leaving. So I'm going to go down to London actually tomorrow. So I'll be there for a few days early before I start anything with the other guys. Yeah. And but I got a couple nice days here. It's been nice. Yeah. Yep. What else we got here? Dave was saying on Friday you were impressed with the Tone XFR. It is really good. It's kind of the first one I've plugged into where it was like one of those, powered speaker that's supposed to be look like a guitar cab, but it's actually full range and be for modelers. The first one I plugged into where I went, guitar amp. Sounds like a guitar amp. It's really very good. So if playing through it, if nobody told you, just with whatever a good, obviously it's down to the model that you're using in the Tone X and stuff like that. Or if you're plugging a different type of, Quad Cortex or whatever into it, XFX, down to the model a lot. But if you're putting a good sound into it, it really is like, that just sounds like a combo, like that's good, it really has that sound, like where it's, and the feel, of the guitar amp speaker. It just, they did a good job on it. So, yeah. Earl says that he hopes I can schedule an interview with Leon Todd. I mean, sure, sometime, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you reach out to That Pedal Show when you're in the UK? I did their show a while ago. There's an interview with me on there. Not from this past year, but the year previous, I believe. So it's not that long ago. It was 2024. Yeah, January 2024. I think I did an interview there. Maybe it was 2023, but I think it was 2024. It's hard to remember. The years here all kind of blur, the trip and everything, when I come over here. And yeah. What was your biggest gig and what was your second and third? Oh, do you think this is your biggest gig and what was your second and third? Biggest gig. I mean, like, as far as like playing with an artist that's like the most established or sort of popular or something. I mean, but sort of biggest, it's like biggest as a, it can be different things, probably the biggest artists I ever played with was probably Don Henley, just because he's an Eagle and, massive hits and stuff like that. And that gig, you always feel sort of the prestige of the gig, I would say, when you're doing it, playing these songs, oh, we're going to do, one of these nights into, Sunset Grill, into, just the depth of these songs, these great big hits, and then we're going to do Boys of Summer, Dirty Laundry. And at the end, we're going to encore with Hotel California and Desperado. It's like some of the biggest songs of all time, all by this guy that's here. So that I guess strikes me as being when you say big, I think a sort of commercial success. But obviously Chris Cornell had a lot of that too, and Melissa Etheridge, big hits. And this gig for me, playing with Joe and Steve, though, is sort of more like, I guess, dream come true stuff. I mean, it all is, all of it, but it's like, it's something that I never thought would have happened. And I was so focused on guitar when I was a kid that, it's almost still feels surreal, like very surreal, and some of the songs, I mean, that I would have been sitting there in my bedroom learning when I was a kid, now I'm playing them, or things I played as a kid, at gigs, copying these songs and stuff. And now you're playing it. It's a trip, man. It's like playing them with the guy, like it's pretty interesting. So I have to kind of not think about it that much, or, psyching yourself out a little bit. Just go in and do it. Surprised you don't have a 5150. I had a 5150, man. Original block logo 5150 right when they came out. I mean, the year that they came out, I got one. I had that amp for a long time. I couldn't tell you what happened to it. I don't know what the heck I did with it. It was gone by probably 97 or something like that. But I had it in the early 90s. And I used it a lot at gigs. I remember flying that amp to, roadcast to San Francisco, actually, for a Battle of the Bands thing that we actually ended up winning. We won a guitar that night and then went all the way to New York City and competed in the finals of this thing. It was sponsored by Gibson and some other people. We won a Gibson Nighthawk, I remember. But flew the amp to San Francisco to compete in this, original band sort of Battle of the Bands competition. And my amp broke on the gig, my 5150. And a very nice guy came up and said, "You can play through my amp if you want to, man." And he was in a competing band, he didn't have to do that. He was a very nice guy. And I turned around and looked at it. It was a PV Renown, one of those 80s Renowns. I thought, oh, okay. And I plugged into it, and I probably sounded the same as I always did. And then we won the contest, so it worked out. Nice guy for letting me use PV Renown. But yeah, my 5150 had, probably in the, put in a road case, didn't take the tubes out and stuff. And I think I blew a HT fuse or something. The power tubes arced and something went, I think actually I seem to remember it took out a couple parts on the board, like when one of the power tubes arced. And I took it and had to get it. And I remember those were the original Philips power tubes too, the Philips 6L6s that they were using at the time, still in PV amps. They had lots of them, I guess. And the amp was so old that they came with original American tubes. Early 90s, they were still using American tubes. Anyways, yeah. James says it's good to see you. It's good to see you guys here too. Talk about capturing Warren's rig. How did you do it, and what equipment did you use? Maybe he told you any stories about the recording process from the 80s. So you're talking about we made some captures of quad cortex yeah, I mean, I just went to his house and took I take the reactive load? I think so. And made a couple captures of his old Marshall, kind of that he's had since at least Invasion of Your Privacy, I think. And then also his Soldano. Yeah, because he used Soldano starting in the 90s. And we just did direct head captures. So very basic, just set them up for a good sound and then run the program on the quad and go through the reactive load and kicks back into the quad and makes a little program, and that's it. Did he tell me any stories about the recording process from the 80s? Well, not really, but the way that he has a cab in his studio that's mic'd, and he's got a couple different cabs on it, a couple different mics on it. It's a standard of 57 and a Royer, I believe. And I did capture using cab. Couple, and then I think both direct. That's right, we did both direct and cabinet. So he's got an old Marshall cab, and I think it might have V30s in it or something, and 57 and Royer, and we did a blend of those. That's what he likes, and yeah. If you do direct captures as well as captures with cabs, then you can make presets pretty easily in a quad. And I do this all the time where I have both of those captures running at the same time on one set of outputs. It's kicking out and going to a power amp, and you can use cabs on stage then. So that'll be the one that's just the direct head capture. And then the other set of outputs have the mics baked in, to the sound, the cabinet baked into the sound, and that goes out to the front of house. This always sounds very good because, you've got then your ideal studio sound that you sat there and were able to capture. And that's what you hear in the PA. So it's always present and very dialed in, because you can do things like have a Royer and a 57 with no bleed, no drums or bass or any other instruments or whatever bleeding into the sound. It's always, makes for a good tone. So like in some ways that, not using mics, and it's easy enough to do this, like even with real amps and stuff, use IRs and stuff to go to the PA. But I've often thought it generally speaking sounds better to me, like what's better. But, when you place mics on a live rig, it's never as dialed in as what you can do in a studio and spend some time moving the mics around and stuff, right? So, and getting the exact gain staging, just everything just perfect, and you can do that when you make a capture, or when you use an impulse response live, even with real amps. So in a PA, it generally, when you hear it, it just sounds really like just idealized, guitar sound. Yeah. It's all down to the sound person at that point, like I say, the gig we did the other day, we used some modeling stuff for quad and the Axe Effects. James using Axe Effects, both running into power amps and cabs on stage, but not mic'd, and the IRs going to the PA from those things. And when I hear them, I've heard a little bit of the stuff that we did, and it sounds really good. Like, to be honest, it's just because the sound guy's great, Pete Melton. He's a really good rock sound guy, and he gets it, and he's not afraid of guitars, and we're giving them great quality sounds, and it works. So I still believe in flapping pants on stage with cabinets, though, that it makes a big difference, in filling in the sound of the center of the stage, having some not too loud, but moderate volume, good tough guitars there is just like part of the sound of rock and roll coming off the stage, and then you get some feedback and stuff, and it just makes it. The problem isn't as much tube amps as it is when people eliminate the amps and cabs on stage. I maintain that the biggest thing is still moving some air on stage with a guitar cabinet is really helpful if you want to sound like a real rock band. Don't mean to name drop, but others do it. Last night, Stephen Percy told me on Instagram he's installing some 70s Bill Lawrence pickups in his Gibson Mutter. And what do those pickups sound like? I don't really have a great perspective on the Bill Lawrence, but Nuno's done his whole career with them. So I guess that kind of tells you. Everybody, Aerosmith used to use them. Like, a lot of people use them. But they were a dual blade, I think, kind of hot. I think they had a ceramic magnet, and they were rather hot. So blade pickups. I've never had one in a guitar, but I've played the Nuno guitars a little bit back in the 90s. I used to work in a music store that sold them. God, my belly's like growling. It's insane. I wonder if you can hear it through the microphone. Maybe. I've been looking at the Marshall DSL line as my first tube amp. Not sure which to get. They're solid, You could go that route and probably do quite well for yourself. Thank you for answering my question regarding Marshall cab speakers. Here's the coffee and kitty fun. Thanks, Milt. Appreciate the super chat. How are we doing for time? Let's see. It's 8:34. I haven't been on quite an hour yet because I came on a little bit late. So I'm going to go just a little bit over an hour, and then I'm going to jet and get some dinner and stuff, as is my sort of custom when I'm out on tour. I generally do this for about an hour. I do them a little shorter than when I'm home, just because I know also it's Sunday, and I should probably track down some food before it gets too late. Yeah, Steven said been gassing hard for a 5150 combo regardless. Oh yeah, those are heavy. Those 60 watt, all tube. They're really heavy. But cool nonetheless. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. What's interesting? Rig rundown. Steven's touring rig. He had different guitars for every song. Yeah, his rig is pretty wild these days. He's got like 4 pedal boards or 3 pedal boards at least. And pretty sophisticated. He's always got a synth pedal board, and he's got a lot going on. He sounds great though, man. I watched a bit of the recent Billy Idol show. Like somebody had a good, proper filmed from the crowd. And I ended up sitting there watching like 8 tunes at least or something. I thought, God, they sound good. The band sounds great. Both Steve and Billy on guitars. And, my buddy Eric plays drums, and my buddy Paul plays keys in that band. Don't know the bass player, but all the other guys I know. And they just sound like a well-oiled machine. Billy seemed like he was having fun. They've got this great background singer now too. Her name's Kitten, I think. And she's a big part of the show and really awesome. So really killer. 3J says no notification from YouTube again when I went live. That's too bad. I don't know why that happens or doesn't happen, those notifications. But Liverpool, my ancestral home, between the Empire and the Royal Court, I saw so many bands for the first time. Queen at the Empire in the late 70s. That's so cool. How many hours a day do you play guitar? Well, it depends what I'm doing. Really depends. Can generally end up being a few if I'm working on videos or doing rehearsing for a gig or something. Yeah. Do I think a V30 or Greenback would sound good in a modeling amp? I'd probably go V30. Yeah, I think over a Greenback, just because they're a little more versatile across the board. That or maybe an H75 Creamback. Yeah. Wonder who the new Foo Fighters drummer is going to be. Geez, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are speculating it could be, Taylor's son, Shane. He's great now. He's very good. I mean, he's come a long way since even doing the show, the Taylor tribute show that we saw him do, which was super heartwarming and sad all at the same time and everything. But he played great then. His tempo was a little, but he was like 16, and he sounds amazing now. I saw that happen too with Nick Collins, Phil's son. When he first started playing drums with him when he was like 16, and he sounded really good. but it wasn't quite, like all wasn't fully arrived, I don't think, but really good and good enough to do what he was doing, which was some TV and stuff. And it was, cool story. Then when I saw him live a few years later, he was 19 or 20, and I saw Phil at the Forum in LA, and he just sounded amazing. He was like fully formed by then. So yep. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Hey Pete, just got done watching a video about the lion pedal where you were with the creator. Are you talking about the video I did at Sound City and stuff at Blue Saraceno and stuff? That was really fun. It's James Santiago. It was a fun hang. Yep. Roger and Peter, old school, maybe seeing the drummer with the phone on behind him at a gig didn't help. I don't think he's been doing it for 20 years. I don't think it had anything to do with that. Maybe Zach will end up with a waste. It's possible, I guess. I'm not sure if they, wasn't the original drummer Alan White, not the other Alan White, but yeah, I'm not sure. I was at the Who gig at Albert Hall. They had a very frustrating night generally. Mix was bad. Roger couldn't keep his earpiece in. I don't know what it is with those guys, but it does seem like they just have a lot of issues, and that it doesn't run like quite like the Stones or even the Stones. A lot of the legacy bands that are, amazing bands that we grew up with, and obviously mad respect and big fan of, but a lot of them seem to struggle with the mix. And I think I don't know, man. There's a lot of bad sound out there and stuff, and everybody kind of loses the plot a little bit and is afraid to rock the boat. And it's like, at least AC/DC sounds like AC/DC. They really sound killer live, and McCartney always has great sound. Same sound guy, by the way, does both of those gigs. But anyways, I don't know. I saw the Who at Hollywood Bowl a number of years ago, and they had an off night. And after I saw it, I love the Who, man. I mean, I love Pete and I love the Who. But after I saw that gig, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go again. Like, because I've seen them a few times over the years, and you want to remember it like a certain way and stuff. And when I went, and Roger was the MVP that night. I remember he sounded great and was nailing everything and just like really good form. Pete had a really hard night though and stuff. And then to be honest, and I don't know whose decision, but I don't want to, sound like a broken record because I talked about this already on the show, but I'm just not a fan of the rolling drums, It's like, sure, they have their place, but not in the Who, I just don't think I don't think, that the bass and the drums in the Who is a really big deal, and you got to give due credit and attention to those tones and sounds and everything in order for it to sound like legitimate Who music to me. So enough about that, but curious what your recommendation is for IEMs in your monitors, looking to upgrade to something with more clarity at lower volumes. I know what you mean. It's always a struggle for me. I used them the other night for the whole gig. My ears have been bothering me a little bit. I'm going to try and use ears for the whole Satch Vibe Band tour. Right now, I've got a few pairs, man. I've got some 64s. They're called A5s. They don't make them anymore. I think now they make an A4 and an A6, 4-driver, 6-driver. My recommendation would be don't use in-ears with too many drivers, number one. So for clarity especially, the more drivers you get, it seems like the bass always increases. So you really only need 3 or 4, maybe 5 driver, if you really want to go that far. The more drivers, it's supposed to be better everything, separation, frequency response, everything. But I really think that a 3-driver or 4 or 5 is enough for guitar, because I don't want that much bass in them, because there's tons of bass on stage already, I find, or you get the bass off the subs or off the PA and you feel it, and it comes, you put those things in, you still hear all that bass and rumble and things off the stage. So more bass in my ears, I don't really want. And I find it just kind of can tend to obliterate the guitar sound a little bit. Like I can't tell what's going on. I tried a pair of like 12-driver 64s before getting the A5s, and I was like, I cannot. tell what is happening with guitar on these at all. Like I just felt like a fish out of water. My guitar sound didn't sound anything like it was coming out of the cabinet and stuff. And they said, "Oh, you probably want something more like our A5s with less bass." So my recommendation would be that you don't actually, which is good news because you don't have to spend that much. You can spend a little less, and it's kind of nice. Beyond that, I think don't be afraid to go over to the monitor person, or if you're doing your own monitors, spend a little time dialing in the master EQ on your mix, on the output going out of the board to your wireless transmitter that then your receiver picks up and sound goes into your ears. You'll always have an EQ. Generally, there's a compressor and EQ, on each output. And I get in there and I end up shelving bass out and going and cleaning up the low mids a little bit, usually doing a little bit of an upper frequency boost for clarity. And if you do all those things, that should go a long way towards, more clarity at lower volumes, like you say. So there's two little bits of advice. Yeah. Slippery Pete says you got an Ibanez 7-string with a 25.5-inch scale. Feels great, just like a normal guitar with a little bit wider neck. Yeah, that's kind of like mine. I'm very used to it now. I mean, I really like it, actually. I've got a couple videos coming out relatively soon. I put a lot of videos in the can so that I've got a bunch of editing to do, but I've got at least another 5 so that I've got some stuff to spread out over the next couple months while I'm on the road. And release on my YouTube channel. Put out 2 videos this week, by the way. Not very many people have watched them. That's the nature of YouTube these days. I guess it's more difficult, but I've got one for the Royal Flash Plus from VS Audio. And I did another one, and I'm going to space on what it was because, oh, right. It was for the Space-Time Delay and the Kaluna 2 Overdrive from Valbrook. Both very nice pedals. Yeah. So check those out if you get a chance. Give them some plays. Put them on a loop. Helps the channel. Yeah. I have a 7-string with Evertune. That's a pretty good idea. I kind of wish mine had an Evertune. Like 100% rock solid, like you say. That's a pretty good idea. Yeah. Interested in the lo-fi sound of a Dan Electro guitar, but worried that the short scale might help me or trip me up switching between guitars at a gig. I can do that, I mean, I'm gonna have to do that in this gig, obviously, switching between like 7-string and 6-string. Just get used to it. You just have to practice. You can do it. Don't worry about it. I kind of started to appreciate different guitars and their feel and idiosyncratic differences and stuff like that. I back when I was younger, I wanted everything to feel the same and consistent. And I was worried it would trip me up. And now I'm just like, it's cool. I'll switch from a Telly to Les Paul or whatever, if that's what's right for the music. Yeah. Okay, another 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to split. I'm going to head down through the chat here. What are your thoughts on the new 7879 Brown Sound Pack for Tone X? Just killer. They did a great job on it. It's amazing sounding, I think. For what it is, it's just like incredible. Add some effects to taste, and away you go. Have no reservations about recommending it. How can I use a single power supply to feed a power amp pedal, 24 volt and 18 volts, since most of the power supplies are 500 milliamps? Yeah, that's a pretty tall order, a 24 volt. I don't even know if there's anything that'll do that, man. You might ask Friedman. That's a question for Dave on Tone Talk. But I kind of don't think there's a guitar pedal power supply that'll do 24 volts. There might be one that has like 2 12 volts and you can combine them or something, maybe. Or maybe one of the top line, Dunlop ones that has like tons of outputs. That's like kind of looks like a single rack space thing or something. Maybe something like that. But you might need just a separate. You're probably covered with the 24. With the 18 volt with like a Kiox power supply. You could do 18 volt with that, but that 24 volt, you need a combiner cable to do 2 12 volts, which a Kiox could probably handle too. So maybe a Kiox with a combiner. This is a question for Friedman. Yeah, ask if you can use a special cable with something like the Kiox, sort of the really nice one that's got multiple outputs on it that you can switch. The nice thing with those is that you can switch all of them anywhere between 9 to 18 and different milliamps and stuff. So it might work for you. Biggest gig was on stage with AC/DC as a kid for me. Yeah, that's true. I had a cardboard guitar, but I was on stage with AC/DC. That is true. 1987. Any thoughts on the new Fractal VR4? Great so far. VP4, sorry. Really like it. Haven't spent enough time with it, but I'll get more into it later. And so far, really like it. Will you be doing Five for Fighting this summer, fall? Yes, I am doing the band tour with Five for Fighting. So I'll be out with them a couple weeks after I get back from this. Pete and everyone, do you find yourself messing with the amp controls on the new Tonex Brown sound collection? Phaser, delay, reverb. As far as I know, unless I'm missing something, those aren't really part of the package. I mean, there is a phaser and a delay and a reverb in there, but they're not like specifically Van Halen oriented, although they do sound good with it. Tonex, capture packages are, you get the sort of standard assortment of Tonex effects, but then they're all about the amp captures, so it's not like they've got a tailored phase 90 in there that's supposed to be like Eddie's sound or a tailored Echoplex delay. It doesn't really work. So, if you're trying to do it all in a DAW, you can get those sounds other ways, like use a UA Echoplex or something, or just use real pedals. Use a real phase 90 and Echoplex pedal going right into your interface, and then pull up the plugin, and then maybe the Sunset Sound reverb or whatever in your DAW for the reverb sound. Doug, are you coming to Canada? Not right away, but maybe sometime down the road. We will see. Yeah. Is it true in Liverpool the local police have to get Beatles haircuts? I haven't heard that. I don't think so. Could be, but I don't think so. It's not something I've ever noticed. Well, many times the police here have their hats on, so they're like bobby hats or whatever, so you don't see their hair, I guess. Now that you mention it. 5150 is based on Soldano. Yeah, like fairly closely. That was what they were going for. Saw Joe Satriani with Sammy Hagar recently. He was in top form. Yeah, he's playing amazing. Cool to see him play with a Frankenstein copy. First time seeing him play something other than Ibanez. Yeah, Ibanez players are interesting. They're like, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Paul Gilbert. They're like diehard Ibanez people. They go there and then they don't really leave. And that says a lot, I think, So when you were learning to play guitar, was there a particular practice routine you followed? I would go into, down rabbit holes of like working on things for weeks at a time, certain instructional videos, or I'd get the Paul Gilbert video or the Steve Morse video, and then I would just sit there and work on stuff like, kind of religiously over and over and over again, playing the same things for 6 months with a metronome until I built up technique and stuff. Yeah. So I did do that. Spent a lot of time on theory, mostly by ear, for sure. But I did take theory, and I went to GIT eventually, took a 6-month theory course, and that's about the extent of my theoretical knowledge. But I can figure out, if I'm playing a chord, like I can go, all right, what are the notes I'm playing? I could call it this, theoretically. How do you think the Tonex full range cab sounds better than I haven't tried the Fender, so can't comment on that. The Tonex is excellent, though. I can say that. Roth's new band is pretty smoking. Yeah, agreed. He's actually singing pretty good. His backup singer dudes add a new dimension. I love that. I love the backup singer dudes. That was the coolest surprise. Was like, oh, that works, and it's fun, and that's just Dave having a stroke of genius. So he's he did some silly stuff sometimes too. You would say, right? But every now and then it's like that was a great idea. What a cool, unique way to cover the background vocals. And Al is great, and I'm going to take credit for. I referred Al for the gig, so they called me. I'm sure I've told that story, but I got a phone call, and I thought about it for about 10 seconds, maybe 8, maybe more like 6. And I said, I'm going to give you a phone number, and you should call. This guy's going to make you very happy. True story. And Al's been doing it ever since. Who's playing guitars? Al Estrada. Fellow Sur user. Not always, but he's over the years, he's been Sur endorser and stuff. And he's a lovely guy, and he plays Van Halen really well as other things too. But Van Halen is almost the reason why I said just do this is because I knew that they had problems finding somebody and keeping them on board for a while. And I was like, if Al can't do it, then nobody could do it, because he'd spent so much time playing Van Halen and playing that music and knowing those songs inside and out in bands over the years in Southern California, that it almost became part of his style. Like his style he just sounds like that when he plays, so it's rooted in, like, it just the licks got in there, and that's how he sounds. So it's like, and he sings really well, high background parts and stuff like that. So I thought he's going to make him very happy. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one more super chat. I should go soon, guys, but so that I can get some dinner. It's almost 9 here. Have an IRX and warm WA12 mic pre, the API-ish one. Do I go direct into IRX, out to pre, out to interface, or direct into pre, out to? Does this matter? You may discover you like the sound of running into the pre. You can try different things, I would say. You're going to want to go guitar into the IRX or guitar into pedals into the IRX, and then come out of the pre into your preamp. You could try going into the line input on the preamp. You could try going into the mic input and just keep the output low on the Tone X, because it's going to be mic level in -30. So just try it and see how it sounds. Record it maybe and give it a listen. Come out of the warm, then into your recording interface, and see if you like the sound of transform or situation or whatever's in the mic pre. I know Dave Friedman's a real big fan of coming out of Axe Effects into good mic pre's. And I've noticed it as well. Like, I think I always would just come out of something like an Axe or whatever and go right into a line input on my interface, because it's like, well, that's what it's designed to, but I think it was his buddy George Pahone that showed him the Axe Effects going through a couple of either APIs or Neves or something, and how much better it sounded. And Dave heard it. He was like, oh yeah, it kind of, it makes sense. That's good quality audio gear, and it probably does a little something to the sound. So, but yeah, you don't want to go into the pre and then into it. You want to go out of it into the pre, try both the line and the mic ins, and just gain stage it correctly and stuff, and then maybe record. Try and match the volumes though. Like, so in other words, just go into your Tone X and then come out of it right into the line inputs of your interface and record that. And then go into the Tone X and come out of it into the warm audio and try the different ways that you could do that, and then record that. And then you really have to listen at the exact same volume and check the meters and make sure that one's not a dB louder than the other one. Like, literally just, you can look at the meters in Cubase or Logic or whatever you used to record into, and this one's at -13.2. If this one's at -10, it's going to sound way better because it's just louder, so it's going to seem more. So you really need to balance the volumes. What are Warren settings for the capture? So part of the Warren sound is getting the masters up there, I think. So just do that. Like, it's a little bit like getting the power section working on, anything like a JCM 800 or an old, you got to get it cranking, and it sounds better. I've discovered that I really like JCM 800s quite a bit, actually. If you open up that master, something happens to the sound where the low end starts to filter out a little bit, more highs come in, and it just gets cool. Like when you get the master up around 6 or 7 and the preamp is on 6 or 7 on a JCM 800. So just kind of take that to heart and try that. With a Soldano, it's interesting because he uses those too, but I think we ended up with everything kind of, somewhere between 4 and 6 on the dials. And it just kind of works there. I never use too radical settings of bass or treble or anything on a Soldano. I start with everything kind of on 5, and then I make small tweaks from there. And it's like, it sounds really good right there. And everything's kind of somewhere between 4 and 6. I don't use the depth on my Soldano. I have one, and the depth was something that was kind of an added thing on the new ones. So if anything, I've got the depth off, or maybe up to no more than like 2 or something, because it just sort of doesn't need it, I find, or isn't really part of the Soldano sound. But pizza, pineapple, or no way? Hell yeah, I love ham and pineapple pizza, man. That was a Canadian staple. So I got no problems with pineapple on pizza. And maybe I'm going to go do that right now. I really need to go eat. So Super chat, I'm going to grab there. Oh, any thoughts on Rick Derringer? Oh, legend, of course. Hang on, Sloopy. I mean, 1960s, he was like, came out, and then he had a great long career. Yeah, totally underrated, I would say. Hadn't heard about him for a long time, and so it's sad to hear of his passing. But anyway, terrific career he had, good long career. I mean, I remember him in the 80s still being really relevant and a big deal then. And when you think about it, we're 20 years removed from the 60s then. Yeah, I slept on my finger funny or something, because I'm having I took a nap and then I woke up and I was like, ow, have your hand on your face or something like that. It's hurting. I'm sure it'll go away in a day or something, but I need this hand. I can't have that going on. A little something for coffee, says Robin. Thank you. Appreciate the super chat. Thanks for that. Great to see CRS members having a little holiday, and Jess Harwood's latest vlog. Jess Harwood's latest vlog. Yeah. Oh, we all get on great. We all have it's a really, really fun band. I mean, I went out with them today for Sunday roast, Jess and James. So we're all pals, and I'll see them both tomorrow, actually. Wow, there's a lot of, I'm so far back in the chat, aren't I? I'm sorry about that I didn't get down further. But would you compare that Tonex cab to the 2 Notes Reload as a power amp and rail cab? Oh, if you would compare. Well, they're kind of different. I mean, with the 2 Notes, it's a very different approach, because you'd probably use a guitar cabinet with the 2 Notes Reload for power amp. It does work great though. I run my Chord Cortex into the Reload line in and then out into a guitar cabinet. It sounded very good. The Tonex cab is, of course, a full range cabinet, so it's a different thing. You'd be using it with a modeler with no speaker simulation, with speaker simulation. Get that mixed up. I'm just tired. That's all it is. But you know what I'm saying? With speaker sim and mic and everything baked into the capture, and then you'd use the Tonex cab like that. Yeah. And, so it's a different kind of thing for a different purpose, I think. Yeah. Yeah. All right. You guys, I got to go because I got to get some dinner before it gets too late here. So, yeah. Just looking back through the bottom here. Go eat. It's 9 p.m. Yeah, it's Sunday, so I'm a little worried about things closing and stuff. I think I'm good with this pizza place I'm going to hit. But everybody have a terrific week. Next week, should be able to do this. I think I'll be into rehearsals by then and doing some things. It will almost be our first show, I think, by then. But what is it? It's the first today. So let me take a look here. The 8th. Yeah, if I need to for some reason postpone it or do it at a different time, I'll put up a watch page or something and post on Facebook and stuff. But I think I should be able to do it. Might be a little later, more around 12:30, or might be a little later in the evening or something next week instead of the time that I started today. I tried to do kind of my usual time today. But anyways, I'll always be here to do it because this is what we do around here. Yep. Just a heads up, says Ben Tom, to everyone in the chat. Ben Coombs, one of the nicest, wonderful people you'll ever meet. Ben's a good cat. Was he here today? I think he was, wasn't he? Oh, there he is. He's here tonight at 8 p.m. He says, check out his show. It's always fun, especially if you're Canadian. Give him some Canadian support and love. Get a steak, says Braxall. Not tonight. I had a roast earlier, so that's enough red meat for one day. All right. You guys have a terrific week. Love you all. Take care. Be nice to one another. Don't worry about a thing. Everything's going to be fine. I hope. Take it easy.